The theater was quiet long before the lights fully came on. People sat in their seats, shifting slowly, whispering to one another, holding paper cups of coffee that had already gone cold. The air felt heavy, as if everyone was waiting for something they could not yet name. On the wide stage, the curtain rested like a sleeping wall, deep blue and calm. Above it, soft lights glowed like early morning stars. This was the kind of silence that did not feel empty. It felt patient. Backstage, a small Filipino boy stood near the edge of the hallway. His name was Miguel. He was only 9 years old, thin and short for his age, with dark hair that fell into his eyes no matter how many times his mother tried to smooth it back. His shoes were clean but worn, the soles thin from years of walking on rough streets. He held his hands together tightly, as if they might float away if he let go. Every sound around him felt louder than it should have been. Footsteps echoed, voices passed by, somewhere, someone laughed, and the sound made his heart jump. Miguel had never been on a stage like this before. Back home in the Philippines, he sang in small places. He sang in the church where the ceiling leaked during heavy rain. He sang outside the market while his mother sold vegetables. Sometimes he sang on the steps of their house at night, when the heat finally softened and the world grew quiet. Singing was never a dream of fame for him. It was something he did because it made the tightness in his chest feel lighter. It was the only thing that made the world slow down. His problem was simple but heavy. Miguel's father had been sick for a long time. Medical bills piled up like stones. His mother worked all day, and still it was not enough. Miguel knew this, even though no one had explained it to him in words. Children understand more than adults think. He sang because he wanted to help. He sang because it was the only thing he could give. When his name was called, his mother knelt in front of him. She placed her hands on his shoulders and looked into his eyes. Her smile was calm, but her eyes were full. "Sing like you always do," she said softly. "Sing like it's just us." Miguel nodded. He took a deep breath that shook a little, then walked toward the stage. The curtain opened slowly. The lights felt warm and bright at the same time. Miguel blinked once, then twice, until the crowd came into focus. Rows and rows of faces looked back at him. Howie Mandel watched quietly, his face gentle and open. Heidi Klum smiled in a way that felt encouraging. Sofia Vergara tilted her head, already interested. Miguel stood at the center of the stage. The microphone seemed tall, but he adjusted it with both hands. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. His heart beat so loudly he was sure everyone could hear it. Then he closed his eyes. He thought of home. He thought of his father lying on the thin mattress, smiling even when it hurt. He thought of his mother counting coins at the table late at night. The noise in his head faded. The silence returned. When Miguel began to sing, the sound did not rush out. It came softly, like a careful step into still water. His voice was clear and light, but there was something deeper underneath it. It sounded older than his years, as if it carried stories he had never spoken. The first note hung in the air, trembling, then settled. People leaned forward without realizing they were doing it. As the song continued, the room changed. The large theater felt smaller, closer. Miguel's voice filled the space, not by being loud, but by being honest. Each word was shaped carefully, like something precious. There was no fear in his voice now. Only feeling. The kind of feeling that does not ask for attention but receives it anyway. Simon's expression shifted. His usual sharp look softened, just slightly. Howie's eyes grew shiny, though he did not move. Heidi pressed her hand to her chest. Sophia's smile faded into something quieter and more serious. The audience sat still, as if afraid that moving would break the moment. Miguel reached the middle of the song, where the melody rose gently, like a question asked to the sky. His voice cracked just a little, not from weakness, but from emotion. Instead of hurting the song, it made it more real. It reminded everyone that this was a child standing alone under bright lights, carrying a world much bigger than himself. This was the gentle twist, though no one could have named it at the time. People expected talent. They expected something impressive. What they did not expect was the way the song felt like a memory they all shared. It reminded them of loss, of hope, of quiet moments when someone had sung to make things feel better, even when they could not be fixed. As Miguel sang the final lines, his voice grew softer again. He opened his eyes and looked out at the judges, then at the audience. He did not smile. He did not try to impress. He simply finished the song the way he always did, letting the last note fade naturally, like the end of a prayer. For a second, no one clapped. The silence returned, but this time it was full of emotion. Then someone in the audience stood up. Then another. Applause rose slowly, then all at once. People wiped their eyes. Some held their hands over their mouths. The sound filled the theater, warm and strong. Miguel stood still, unsure of what to do. He bowed slightly, the way he had been taught, then looked toward the judges. Simon cleared his throat. He took a breath, as if steadying himself. "Miguel," he said, his voice quieter than usual, "that was pure." He paused. "You didn't try to be big. You were just honest, and that is very rare." Howie leaned forward. "I felt like you were singing just for me," he said. "Like you were telling me a story I needed to hear today." His voice shook, and he laughed softly at himself. "That doesn't happen often." Heidi stood up, pressing her hands together. "You are so young," she said, "but your voice carries so much heart. You made me forget where I was." Sophia blinked back tears. "You sound like an angel," she said simply. "And angels make people feel safe." Miguel listened, his hands still folded in front of him. He did not fully understand everything they said, but he felt the warmth in their voices. He felt seen. Then Simon stood. The room grew quiet again. He looked at Miguel for a long moment. "Sometimes," he said, "we hear singers who are technically good. Sometimes we hear singers who are emotional. Very rarely do we hear someone who is both, especially at your age." He placed his hand over the golden button. "This moment belongs to you." The sound of the buzzer was sudden and bright. Gold confetti burst into the air, raining down like sunlight. The audience erupted. Miguel froze, his eyes wide. For a heartbeat, he thought something had gone wrong. Then his mother appeared at the side of the stage, her hands covering her face as she cried. Miguel laughed once, a small, surprised sound. Tears filled his eyes as the golden paper fell around him. He reached out and caught a piece, holding it between his fingers as if it might disappear. The judges clapped. The audience cheered. The world felt too big and too beautiful all at once. In the middle of the noise, Miguel closed his eyes again. He breathed. He felt calm. The same calm he felt when he sang at home. The same calm that had carried him here. Later, when the lights dimmed and the confetti was swept away, Miguel sat quietly with his mother. The excitement had softened into something gentle and real. She held his hand, and he leaned against her side. There were still problems waiting for them. Life had not suddenly become easy. But something had changed. Miguel had been heard, not just his voice, but his heart. And that made the future feel a little less heavy. As they walked out of the theater, the night air was cool and kind. Miguel looked up at the sky. He did not know what would come next. He only knew that he would keep singing. Slowly, honestly, one song at a time,